Good evening. This meeting of the Galt Joint Union Elementary School District Board of Education is hereby called to order. Will everybody please rise and join us in the flag salute?
Salute, pledge. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There was one action taken during closed session, and that is in reference to item 3, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. And upon the motion of Grace Mawson, seconded by Casey Raboy, the board voted unanimously to accept a separation agreement. And now on to item D, board meeting protocol.
On here. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. All right. Thank you, Mr. Silva. Our meeting tonight is being recorded and our meeting is open to the public, and also it's broadcast live through Zoom teleconference. For public comments are 3 minutes per agenda item. The board shall limit the total time for public comment for each agenda item up to 20 minutes. And with board consent, the board president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public comment. To make a public comment via Zoom teleconference, notify the board meeting assistant through the chat box feature in Zoom or by using the raised hand feature in Zoom during the agenda item to be addressed. You will be displayed by your identified by your display name in Zoom when called upon to speak. To make public comment in person, please complete a public comment form indicating the item you would like to address and give that to our board meeting assistant, Ms. Bach. Email public comments are emailed to the superintendent 24 hours before the board meeting, and they will be posted to the district's website with the agenda. Email public comments are limited at 450 words, and we did not receive written comment for tonight. Board vote and connectivity. Each motion will be followed by a roll call vote for each action item. Should a board member attend the meeting remotely and lose connectivity by teleconference or phone, the meeting will be delayed by 5 minutes, and regular board meetings shall be adjourned by 10:30 p.m.
All right, thank you, Superintendent. And then just out of curiosity, do we have any requests for public comment for any of our action items? Okay. Thank you very much. Then we will move on to item E, reports. Superintendent Young.
All right, thank you. I would like to start with a brief slideshow that has pictures only. It's not in your packet because we've taken the pictures the last couple of days. I'll get that going up here for you. Let's see if okay, I can do it. All right, so all of our schools are recognized in at least one slide here. This is welcome back, lots of balloons and banners. We're across the district to welcome students and staff back. Quite a few of our teachers have done really neat things outside of their classrooms, whether it's painting windows, door displays. You'll see other things as well. I also through this will highlight a few pictures that show some of the grounds and facility work that was done this summer. This is Valley Oaks, a bedrock. I think those are succulents. I'm not sure, Mr. Nelson, but it looks really nice. There's 2 sides of it. That's behind the kinder building in the middle of the quad at Valley Oaks. Grounds workers did that. Oh, that's the other side. Kids out playing, that's Fairsight Preschool. Couple more pictures of lots of kids out there. This was Greer, a project at Greer. We put classrooms in sinks in 16 classrooms at Greer. We did some work also redoing some siding at Valley Oaks and some of the portables. A couple pictures there. It was really needed. Fairsight had a nice facelift this summer. Some pictures of some sod plants, drought resistant plants were put in, some planter boxes that were built. We also painted the permanent buildings of Fairsight. They were painted the same color, but it has a fresh paint of fresh coat of paint there at Fairside, new marquee as well. Just a few more pictures of what some teachers have been doing to their windows to welcome students. This was a creative way to welcome students on the first day of school. This was a team out in a BFLC team that was out and about when I was taking pictures. I think this was on the first day of school. McCaffrey, they had their banners out. They had a welcome center in the front of the school. Lots of welcome back. Welcome flags everywhere. Teacher created a very nice planter box, nice flowers out in front of classrooms. Some pictures of our new teachers. This is also in the carousel of our homepage. Our TOSA's Teachers on Special Assignment went around and supported teachers on the first day of school and took their pictures. And there we go. So just wanted to share some of the things that we've seen the last week, and just want to thank everybody for a great start to the school year so far. It's taken a team approach. I've just been wonderful, thankful for our staff. This keeps, I know it's not, normally it doesn't do that. And then I would like to jump into a PowerPoint that is in your packet next. Share with you a little bit of how we've kicked off the school year at all of our school sites. We started the year with an admin retreat. We got together for 2 full days, and we really talked about our LCAP goals and our metrics and what we're really looking to do this school year, well-being of staff and students, and looking at our district data and what we're really hoping to see this year. And so I'll wait for Kauai to pull that up. What our principals did was they worked together to create a common message, and we called it a school retreat, a 2-hour session that we had at all of the school sites. And I attended, Dr. Al Rogers attended, our consultant that we're using this year, and Cleo attended as well. And I shared, I have David Nelson's PowerPoint that I wanted to share. All of our principals had a wonderful PowerPoint and very similar, but I stole his to put into the board packet. And so it'll be up here in a second here, but really looking at the community of practice and a continuous improvement cycle this year. Want me to? There we go. Okay. I changed a couple slides, David. I didn't steal the whole thing. No. So nice welcome. Really looking at what we're doing, framing the picture is some of the messages that we had, and how do we create a clear shared vision of what we need to do this school year. And it all begins with leadership. And the message is really that we're all leaders, whether you are a leader on the playground as a yard supervisor, whether you're a leader in your classroom or a leader you know, at the district level or the site level. And so how can we bring out leadership skills in everyone has been a big part of the message, and that everyone can be a leader. Is it? No. What? There. You'll do it. Okay, thank you. So some elements of this really is looking at success, hope, and culture and action. Success, what we need to be successful, what we need to be successful. Hope, what are our core values? Really looking at that as a system. Culture, within our schools, what do we bring to our culture, our community? Our culture of a shared learning environment, how we create that at school, and then our actions, what actions do we need to make all this come together? Not going to read all of this, but we've been focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Some of our sites got to this and some of them didn't. We did a lot of work the 2 days with admin on this, and we'll be talking about this a lot this next school year. But really we're looking at, as we move into our district and our site goals, to consider how we ensure that we are providing a nurturing environment for our students through diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And we have our 2 LCAP goals, but with that, we also have metrics on how to determine if we're meeting those goals, and those are using our district assessments. And so our goal this year is to increase 10% the number of students that are meeting the district reading assessments at each trimester. And then we also are wanting to increase by 5% the number of learners performing at the 60th percentile on MAP, and that's both for reading and math. And then we're also looking at our survey data for healthy kids. We want to make sure that we're seeing positive increases for students, staff, and parents in the area of safety, belonging, and engagement. And we've done a lot of work talking with our administrators and our teachers about, is this attainable? And we really think 10% and 5% growth from where we're starting right now is attainable. I think I'll go ahead and I'll skip to the next slide there. Just want to, you have our district data. And so you can see that where we ended the year for DRA data. I know you've seen this before, but all of our TK3 students across the district in the fall, we were at 44% meeting. Winter, we jumped up to 55%. In spring, we're at 54%. So half of our students across the district in TK3 are meeting district reading assessments. And so we're hoping that 54% will go up to 64% is what we're looking at. And then you can see for MAP, 31%, we're at the 60th percentile. This was in the winter for math, and then 37% in reading. And then you can see the Healthy Kids survey. That's we would like to see those scores in the 80s, at least 80. So we want to say, you know, kids, do you feel safe at school? We want parents, students, and staff to be around the 80%. And same thing for caring adults at school. I think I will go ahead. I'm going to skip a couple slides here. I'm going to get to the continuous improvement timeline. I think it's the next one. So where are we going from here? We are in the process of planning the October 10th and 11th PD days. Those are 2 days that students will not be at school. Teachers will be here to the 10th and the 11th, and our classified staff, most of our classified staff will be working on the 11th. So we are looking at coming back and revisiting some of the goals that teachers set before they started the school year. And so we'll be working with that. We have an admin meeting next week, and then again in September to plan what these days will look like. We have another district-wide PD day on March 6th that will revisit our goals again. And then May 31st is a 5th Wednesday where teachers would be asked to complete a survey on our community of practice, what worked well this year, what didn't, what can we change for next year. It's kind of a timeline of what we're doing. And then, oh, we didn't do the jelly. We'll get into the jelly. Maybe we'll do the jelly at a board meeting later. All right, any questions on that? Comments? No. The next, something else that's in your packet right behind that PowerPoint, I just wanted to share a one-page document of goal setting that we did with district office staff, a staff meeting we had prior to start the school year. Just the quote I used, or there are a few secrets to success: courage, goal setting, and focus. And so we talked about goal setting and we talked about focus, and I asked staff at the district to reflect on this, taking into consideration the district's growth goals. How does your work contribute to these goals? So how your job at the district office, how do you support these goals? And so we had some good discussions, and we also, we set some personal goals. I asked them to do one personal and one professional goal, and we'll be revisiting these as a staff. We're also going to continue to review this September, March, and May also with our district office staff. And I think next for my report is enrollment. The next page you have shows our enrollment. We are up 32 students, not as high as I had thought a week ago, but what happens too sometimes is you start the first day of school and you find out some students moved over the summer. And so that happened as well. And so before school started, a couple days before, we were up about 70 or so, a little over 30. So that's good. At least we're going in the right direction. You can see the biggest increase was at Fairsight, and that's because we did not anticipate the number of TK students. We enrolled 94 TK students. We did not project that many. And McCaffrey's up a little bit. Greer is also up. We had more sixth graders leave the elementary that went to McCaffrey this year. And then some of the elementary numbers are down because they usually have TK. And so TK is now at Fairsight. But at least we're going in the right direction. Facilities update. I will briefly go over that for you. That's in the front, right behind this agenda item. I think Kauai will present that as well. But just wanted to give you an update, what was done this summer, both for grounds and facilities. A lot of work out there. Our grounds crew and our maintenance team did an amazing job this summer getting our campuses ready for school. And I wanted to address something that has come up is the watering and the drought and the shortage of water. Our grounds team has collaborated with the city all summer, and they continue to make sure that we're meeting the needs and following the governor's order. And so with that, we are allowed to, what the city is doing too, the city is watering their parks 3 days a week. With the governor's order, there's some flexibility. They use the word functional turf, meaning play spaces for students. If you're using the turf for, it's not just aesthetic, if you're using it because, and if it's a safety issue. And also what's in the executive order relates to trees. They want you to water enough so you're not killing the trees. And so what they've walked our sites with us, and we have a lot of trees that are in the middle of lawns. And so we have to water enough so we're not killing the trees. And most of our lawn is functional. And so we're following the city's protocol on this and what they are doing for their parks as well. They're watering 3 days a week. And so that's what we are doing. I know the city's order right now, if you go on the website, it is 2 days a week, but we do have some flexibility there because of our situation and because of how we use our fields and our lawns. We've had a few phone calls, and the city's had a few phone calls as well. Well, we see the school, some of the schools, then I live across the street, they're watering every night. We rotate in stations. And so we can't, it might look like the school is watering every night, but it's at different stations. And so each station is 3 times a week.
Schools and parks are exempt from the citizens, where we can only water 2 days a week. Odd can only do XYZ day, and vice versa. School and cities are exempt when you're watering in stations.
Well, it's not necessarily exempt, but if we can prove that the turf is functional and it would be a safety hazard to the community, to students, to the public, if we were just to let the grass die, there's some flexibility there. And the trees, that's a big issue too. And we have tons of trees at all of our sites, and they do not want us to cut back on watering to where the trees are going to die. And most of our trees are planted right in the middle of quads or lawns. And so we have to water. And so we cut back a little bit more in the middle of summer, and things were starting to die. And so there was this balance for a while of trying to figure out how much can we cut back, but still keep things alive. So, and then they gave us some flexibility. We did the sod at Fairsight, and then we did some reseeding at Marengo where grass had died because of water leaks and things like that. And the city gave us some flexibility. They said we could water nightly just in those areas for 30 days to establish the new lawn. So we're following their lead on this. And we'll continue to do so, but they've been great helping us, and our grounds team they've done a great job communicating, taking it upon themselves to call the city and ask them to come out and to confirm that they're doing the right thing.
Okay, so I do have one question then about the watering. So, obviously these systems are not foolproof. Occasionally they, sprinkler heads break, there's leaks. Is there a mechanism, a process where a neighbor, if they see one of our sprinklers, at 9 o'clock at night when nobody's there, if it's leaking, if it's, starting to flood, is there a process that they could inform us so that we can correct it?
And they do, which is great. But I think a lot of people go to our website and they go to the facilities page, or they leave a message on Kauai's phone. They usually find somebody in the district office and leave a message, because a lot of times it's at night when they'll call us after their walk. They get home and then they leave a message. Sometimes they leave the message over at MOT and they get it to us. And we take it very seriously. As soon as we get a message that there's a leak, grounds goes out and repairs it or turns the water off. Sometimes we have to turn the water off for a while to repair a leak. That's why we ended up with some dead grass over the summer as well, because sometimes it's not an easy fix. And in that case, we turn the water off until we can fix it.
Okay, thank you.
One question. When you say, I know the quads in the schools have most of the trees, but the fields in the back, are we watering that? Because I know at River Oaks, it's kind of like, desert. And even the kindergarten has, it looks completely dead, the kindergarten play area. It's just the quad that has grass.
We need to redo the irrigation out in the field at River Oaks. It's better than it used to be. For a while during the summer, it was completely dead, but we do need to, and grounds, they know we need to do a whole rehaul on that out there. And then we had a big leak in the kinder playground at River, and that was fixed this summer. And then I'm not sure where we're at. We're probably going to have to resod that.
The recommendation from the company we use for our sod and our seed is if you planted it now, it would just die with how hot it is. And so they're recommending fall. And so we're going to have to work around. Some sites do have facility use, some soccer and things like that, that we're going to have to work around to reseed or sod, depending on the recommendation for the specific area.
And a lot of our playing fields are a little drier right now too, because we did cut back on watering in the summer and almost probably cut back a little too much and then tried to catch up again. And so it's been that balance of how much can we water.
Thank you.
I think that concludes my reports.
Okay, so that covers items 1 and 2, in which case we'll go ahead and move on to LCAP Goal 1, Item 1, 2022 summer programs.
Thank you. I wanted to just give a brief summary of summer school, and then I'm going to ask Jennifer Collier to come up also. And we have a few slides from the expanded learning summer program. Leah Wheeler was our summer administrator, and so she did these slides for me. She was not able to be here tonight. She's out of town with one of her children. So Leah Wheeler was our summer school gen ed administrator. Gina Fuentes and Julie Hayes, they shared the extended school year ESY for special education. And Veronica Valdovinos over at Fairsight was our preschool site director for summer school. You go to the next slide. Okay, here's our pre-K 8 enrollment. And on the left side is our Gen Ed, our summer program. And I just wanted to highlight that we prioritized students who needed additional support, academic support in reading and or mathematics, and our unduplicated students. And then in some grade levels, we had a bit of a waiting list, but this is 249 students in kinder through 6th grade. We did not have any teachers, enough teachers to offer it for 7th and 8th grade this year. Although we did offer a 6th, 7th grade migrant summer virtual program. So we were able to serve one group of 7th graders. And then over on the right side, you'll see our extended school year. Those students K-8, pre-K 8, they qualified if they were in special education and ESY was on their IEP. And then at preschool level, 71 students, it was generally open to all students and we had enough teachers. And what we did is what kind of limited the number of students you see in each grade level was that we opened it up to all teachers. And when we had the teachers, then we knew how many students we could invite. Next slide. Here is our attendance. And actually, I know the attendance dropped off a little bit towards the end, but I feel that the 80% average attendance was pretty good because if you remember at the end of our school year, we started to have a little bit higher increase in COVID cases with students. So I thought that really the percentage is to keep it at least 80%. And this was 18 days of instruction. Next slide. They also, the teachers, they did collect some reading and math data. And so here's, you see the spring results and then the summer results, just to highlight, like a kinder, when they looked at summer results from spring, it was 22% increase, a lot of growth for those kindergartners. And then 29% in 3rd grade. So I thought that was good to see. Next slide, math fluency. They did a pre and a post results test for math fluency, and you can see that kinder again made a lot of growth. And then 2nd grade also came in high. And just the next couple slides are just some pictures that Leah included. This is Mrs. McCowan's class. They did a novel study, the one and only Ivan. And next slide, I believe, is the engineering, the egg drop. And there's Jason Harcourt up there on the top of the roof. I guess we probably didn't want to put students up there to drop their own eggs, but it was, they enjoyed themselves. They had, the administrators just had an incredible amount of fun. It was great. And I appreciated our attendance was limited a little bit by transportation. We had it at Valley Oaks. And so, but those students over on the west side that live closer, it made it a little bit easier for them to get there. But transportation did an amazing job. We were able to provide transportation for our students who attended ESY. So I just wanted to add that. And then the last slide, this was really cool. At every door was decorated. It was Tour the World, and the kids were working on a country that they wanted to visit. So they all took a tour on the last day of the summer program. Any questions before we move to the expanded learning? No. I have to say, we were unsure. We knew that it was a long year and felt the teachers really needed a break. I was just genuinely just appreciative of the staff, the teachers that came forward and decided to. So it was a lot larger than we thought it would be. We were expecting maybe 100 students, but they really came forward, and classified staff, especially our instructional assistants and kitchen staff, played a really important role in the summer program. So now I'd like to bring up Jennifer Collier, and she has some really special team members that she's going to introduce, and then she'll talk about expanded summer learning.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Check, check, check. Hello? No? Check, check, check. Hello? All right, I'm just gonna move in right on this little step. I don't know. We're just gonna make it work, right? That's expanded learning, right? You make it work. All right, so thank you so much for having us tonight. My name is Jennifer Collier and I am the District Expanded Learning Coordinator. And I was delighted to find that we had 168 students who wanted to stay after school and join us for engagement and activities, caring adult, make friends. We had just a wonderful time. We've also brought on our full team. We had originally 3 expanded learning site coordinators, and we brought on 4 additional site coordinators. They are here with me this evening tonight, so I'd like to take this moment to introduce them. Ladies, could you please stand? Beginning on your right, we have Lizeth Cruz, who is our Fairsight site coordinator. We have Maggie Orines, who is our River Oaks site coordinator. We have Andrea Tackett, who is our Lake Canyon site coordinator. Veronica Salgado, who you've seen before. She is our returning Greer site coordinator. We have Maddie Bachman at Marengo Ranch site coordinator. And then we have Maria Duran, the returning site coordinator at Valley Oaks, and Abby Jones, who is a returning site coordinator for McCaffrey. And thank you, ladies. Go ahead and have a seat. Thank you for being here this evening. One of the wonderful opportunities that happened during summer was these leaders were able to see what expanded learning looked like in action, and were able to see what we were aiming for the goals of having that relationship building, having that safety, positive experience, whether it was emotional safety, cultural safety, physical safety, all those things coming into action. And in addition to that, we participated in engagement sessions. And so this is something that I do during the school year, but all of the coordinators were able to observe and see how those sessions work and what it means to have students, see you on the playground, see you on their way to their next things. When's our next session? What are we going to get to do? So they're already building those relationships. So that continued opportunity was great. We had a 66% average attendance, which meant that 72 kids stayed after school every day for the 18 days at minimum. So that's just a wonderful telling. Kids don't go if they don't like it. They make excuses, they find ways to stay home. So that was awesome. You can see some of the artwork and happy kids. You're also seeing Kevin Bracey. We had a special guest. He is Reach One Alliance. He comes and does motivational speaking. If you have not seen him, the next time he's on a campus, make a point, because he's just a phenomenal leader and inspirational speaker. So this is an example of our engagement sessions that included strengths category, STEAM category, and social emotional learning category. And of course, when it comes to STEAM, I always have to highlight the arts. As an artist, I love to highlight creativity and how children use creativity and their imaginations to learn, using that space to test stuff out in their minds and see like, hey, how could this work for me? Am I getting it? You can see some of the artwork, the different ones. I love the part about the engagement sessions where teachers get to be a learner too, and their students get to watch them try things and do new things together. A big highlight too is catapult building. So they were aiming their strengths and how they could see what they needed to do to their catapult to make their ball fly the farthest or the highest, different things like that. So yeah, it was a wonderful summer. We're definitely bringing on wonderful programs across the district. These coordinators have opened their schools. First day had students. Programs were full, 50 kids. We're in the process of bringing on more. The way the wait list is working is that as soon as we have 20 students on the list, we're working to hire and bring those students on. So really trying to make sure that we're meeting those family needs as quickly and timely as we can, with safety, of course, as our priority. So I just thank you for an amazing summer. We're looking forward to next summer. It's going to be a big, wonderful thing. We'll get to talk to you more about that. Any questions? Any comments? Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you, ladies, for
coordinators,
coming.
for being here tonight.
Yes, thank you. An amazing job. Thank you very much. So then we're on to item 3 then. Is that right? The spring 22 SBAC and CAS? Okay.
Thank you. As Lois already shared, it was last month, in June, we brought you results for the DRA and the MAP for children in the elementary grades. And what you have today are our SBAC results for students in grades 3 through 8th grade. We are very pleased with our results. Staff worked very hard to ensure that students learned the key skills. They were very creative in finding ways to have the children apply those skills and strategies that they taught in different settings. And teachers did a really good job of staying focused on grade level standards. So the data you have in front of you should answer a question. Dr. L. Rogers said that all data should answer an important question. So the question, as you look at this data, is how well did our students apply the learned skills and strategies to grade level standards? So if you take a look at the data, almost half of our students met or exceeded the standards in English language arts. And about 1/3 of the students met or exceeded standards in the area of math. I would like to highlight in the area of ELA, grade 8, with 54% of the children meeting or exceeding the standards. In the area of math, I would like to draw your attention to grade 3, with 45% of the children meeting or exceeding standards. On the second page that you have, we have that same information, but the data is displayed by school and by grade level. For Greer, I would like to highlight in the area of ELA, 6th grade with 47%, 5th grade, excuse me, 5th grade with 47% of the children meeting or exceeding the ELA standards. And also in 5th grade, the area of math with 42%. For Lake Canyon, again, 5th grade with 54% meeting or exceeding standards in ELA, and 3rd grade at Lake in the area of math with 49%. For Moraga Ranch, again, 5th grade with 64% of the children meeting or exceeding standards. In the area of math for Marengo, take a look at 3rd grade with 59% of the children meeting or exceeding standards. For River Oaks, 6th grade with 53% of the children meeting or exceeding standards in ELA. And 3rd grade, again for River Oaks, 45% of the children meeting or exceeding. At Valley Oaks, I'd like you to look at 6th grade for both ELA and math. For ELA, 41% of the children met or exceeded standards. In the area of math, 36% of the children met or exceeded standards. For McCaffrey, take a look at 8th grade. 8th grade with 54% of the children in ELA meeting or exceeding standards, and 33% in the area of math. So what we will do is we will take the results for SBAC, the results from MAP, results from DRA. We look at multiple sets of data to then identify what is needed in the areas of professional development, in the areas of instructional materials, and in the areas of coaching. So generally speaking, at this point, based on the data points that have been shared since June, again, we're looking at different types of professional development. We're looking at coaching cycles. We are revisiting protocols for our academic conferences and our MTSS process. And then we're looking, of course, at improvement cycles, such as the one that Lois already shared with us. So with that, again, we're very proud, considering we were coming off a pandemic, considering the chronic absenteeism that we saw both with children and staff, and quarantine and all that. And even after all that, staff worked extremely hard to give us the results that you have in front of you. Any questions or comments?
Question. Phrase this correctly. So for instance, let's look at Marengo. I'll use Marengo because my kids went to Marengo. So 54% of the 6th graders met or exceeded, right?
Yes.
So my question is, what did the 54% do that the 46% didn't do? And how can we help the 46% come up and meet what the 54% did?
And that is an excellent question. So the question to that, Wes, is we really need to look at what strategies were used either in certain classrooms or in that grade level. All the data that you see are a result of certain strategies that were used by individual teachers or individual PLCs. So this isn't necessarily a reflection of how strong our teachers are. It's how strong we are with teaching strategies. The difficult or the challenge here is, as I've mentioned in the past, is we have to know what strategies gave us those gains. Otherwise, we can't really replicate those results. So it's important to look at what worked and what didn't. And keep in mind that sometimes what didn't work with sixth grade this year could give us huge gains next year. Children are a little bit unpredictable, as I've said before. And each group of children has a different set of strengths, a different set of needs. But it is important to find out what strategies were used, either before reading, during reading, after reading. How well were the math practices implemented? How much opportunity the children have to talk? All those things we have to talk about with admin for each PLC to try to identify what is working, what strategies are working with the majority of the children.
Yeah, I brought up the word variable because I'll use my family, for instance. My kids, when they came home from school, they got a little 10-minute, 15-minute break, and then grandma and grandpa were at home. So guess what? They're over at grandma and grandpa's and they are reading. They're doing their work right away. And I know that's not applicable to all families.
Correct.
So I'm trying to figure out what can we do to help these kids that don't have that same support system so they can get some type of support so those scores can come up for them.
And I think that the more clear we are on what it is that standard means to the children I have in front of me, then the greater chance we have of reaching more children. We can't control what happens after 2:30 or 3 o'clock, but we can certainly control what happens within the time that they are in front of us. Granted, children that go home and have a lot more supports than others will, just by default, we will see greater gains. But it is important for us to look at the instructional minutes that we have and to really take a look at the standards and what does it really mean. I think the hardest part of teaching is looking at a grade level standard, looking at the 30, 34 children that you have in front of you. Each child has strengths and areas that we need to strengthen. And how does one teacher address the needs of 34 children when they look at the same standard? So that the best chance we have of doing that is by collaborating and by sharing strategies, by doing formative assessments. That's why we give the MAP assessment. That kind of gives us an idea of how children might do on state standards in May. So we use MAP. I'm sure they can tell you teachers use exit tickets. It's important, and we have talked to teachers about, please don't close the lesson. Don't let the period end at McCaffrey without checking how well students understood what you were trying to teach. How well did they learn it? And I think that the biggest shift for us, which obviously it's happening based on the scores, it's not necessarily about the teaching, it's about the learning. So once we make that shift, what do children need to learn? Not necessarily what do we need to teach, then we will continue to see gains.
Just refresh my memory, because I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm still stuck in 2019. I feel like these last 2 years have just, you know what I mean? It's been, so in spring of 2021, we did not do testing, correct? Okay, because I'm also, kind of piggybacking off of, a little bit of what Wes said. It'd be interesting to see next year, because this is, 2020, 21, 22 is the first year that these students were back in school.
Yes.
for the entire year. And so it'd be interesting to, so honestly, this is amazing.
Mhm.
Coming off of distance learning where there,
Yes.
could have potentially been the learning loss. And we did lose some students with, not having the right resources or internet, things like that. So it'd be interesting to see next year the comparison
Mhm.
of how far these students have coming off of, the crazy past time warp we've been in the past 2 years.
And Gracie, we also looked at cohorts. That's information that was not included in your packet, but we wanted to see children that took the test in 2019 who were in third,
Mhm.
who are now in sixth. What was the difference? I can tell you
There was a
generally
learning loss
speaking,
type
correct.
thing. Oh, okay.
We saw less learning loss in the area of ELA than we did in math. And just to give you a reference point, if that's kind of like where your mind is going right now, in 2019, in the area of ELA, we had 51%. This year we have 47. So not much of learning loss. In the area of math, we had 41% in 2019. We have 35. So that's 6 percentage points less than 2019. So again, overall, we're moving in the right direction. Obviously, we're stronger in the area of ELA. The professional development for this year will be in the area of math, based on the data that we're looking at.
Well, and you would expect there would be a slight, a little bit of learning loss. And math is one of those subjects, it's very hard to teach, I think, over Zoom. Especially with, the younger grade levels, because it's, I know a lot of the teachers, because I went into classrooms during that where they, or they're hands-on and they're, doing the building blocks and it's very visual. Well, all of a sudden these kids are in front of a computer for a year and a half, in the younger grades. So that's actually not bad at all.
No, and in the area of ELA, again, when you look at cohorts, again, data that I did not include in this packet, for intermediate students, we didn't see a whole lot of learning loss, which indicates that what we're doing with children in the early grades really does carry them in the intermediate grades, which was interesting. We didn't expect, or I didn't expect that. So then huge compliment to our elementary teachers, because what they're doing with foundational reading is making a difference, even, after 2 years of no testing, pandemics and masks and quarantines and all that. And of course, always a reflection on our administrative team, who are very focused and really provide the support that PLCs need. They're on the ground. They know exactly what is needed. They know children by name. They can tell you, what children have gone through the MTSS program, how many children they have reclassified. So a huge compliment to them. Again, when you look at numbers like these, which I did not anticipate that they would be as positive as they look, even though they're not where we want to be, more positive than I thought. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll go ahead and move on to other reports. Number one, the budget 45-day revision.
Quiet, you're gonna do it for me, right? Okay. Just to go over what's in your packet, and I'll have you turn to a certain page. So the PowerPoint will have up, and so you can look at that. Then the next was just written narratives. And so in that, your MYP that you're used to looking at, if you want to turn to that page for reference, I may reference that page as I go through the PowerPoint. So just so you know, if I say, oh, the MYP, that's what I'm referencing. So we can go with the first slide, Corey. So this slide just reiterates the fact that the economic future is in fact uncertain, and using surpluses for one-time fund, using surpluses of one-time funds instead of ongoing was the balance that the for the state budget. And so the legislature kind of went back and forth with the governor, just due to uncertainty, wanting him to do more one-time things than ongoing things. And so that was kind of their compromise amongst each other. Next slide. This just is an illustration of where the major investments for K-12 were in this state budget. Of note, in the blue, you can see that the LCFF, and then the two one-time block grants that we talked about in May, the Learning Recovery Block Grant and the Art Music Instructional Material Block Grant. We've talked about ELO extensively this year. That's been a ramp up for most of the year, but the new block grants will be coming our way as well. Next slide. This is just another illustration. You're reading my mind. This is just another illustration that shows the majority of the investments being one time, and that's in the green. Next slide. So for the LCFF, 22-23 brings a COLA of 6.56% with an augmentation added of 6.28%, which is a total of a 12.8% increase to the LCFF base grant. Next slide. This just shows that the augmentation was intended to help school districts faced with, inflation and ongoing fiscal pressure, staffing shortages, and just the rising costs of goods and services for us as districts as well. So there was recognition in the legislature that our costs are also rising. Next slide. So we've talked about transitional kindergarten as well in the January and May revise. One of the additions to the LCFF is a TK add-on. So for each funded current year TK ADA, we'll receive $2,813. This will help us implement our universal transitional kindergarten and help manage all the requirements that come along with that program. It's been a real ramp up, and Donna's, been spearheading that for quite a while now, getting ramped up for this year, staffing wise, facility wise. We've had to pull together on those things. Next slide. This is school services illustration of the funding factor, and it shows you your base grant, your addition of COLA, the addition of the augmentation, and then what the base grant becomes after that. For us, the addition of the augmentation along with the TK was about a $3 million increase for our district for the LCFF. Next slide. Of note, this is where I'll take you to the MYP after I explain the slide. And so we've talked about this also before, that districts are experiencing higher than normal reserves due to the pandemic and the influx of one-time dollars. You have more one-time dollars, you don't spend your normal dollars, your school shut down during a pandemic. So it was natural that the reserve levels were rising. The average elementary school district in 2021 was 26.01%. And if you refer to our MYP, down at the bottom is our reserve percentages. Our purple is our restricted, which is just all the restricted programs that we run and have their own rules and regulations. Where you're used to looking is the second box. And so that is our district's unrestricted reserves. We talked about the committed in May. So you'll see that our total reserve at the bottom estimated for 21-22 was the 17.59, and estimated ongoing, you can see that we're in line with the average that districts are building. Next slide. Special education, it didn't change from May revise. It will receive the increase to the $820 per ADA. I don't have an amount that increases for our district because our county SELPA calculates that. So once we get that from them, we will be able to analyze what the increase is from this year. Next slide. So we talked about the two block grants last time at May revise, but we got some new estimates from school services. CDE has not officially put out any estimates, so these are pretty preliminary. This one we can spend until 27, 28, and for our district, it's about 4.3 million. And you can see under the purple what the allowable uses are. This one really does focus on the learning loss and closing those gaps and finding supports for students. We do have a long time to spend it. And so hopefully we can support them for, quite a few years through this. Next slide. So this is a really long one. Arts, music, instructional materials, discretionary block grant. So this one for us is a little less. It's 1.9 million for the estimate, and you can be spent through 25, 26. These allowable uses are a little different. This is more, it can be used for operational costs, COVID pandemic supplies, instructional materials, and things like that. And so very much different from the learning loss grant. Next slide. We've talked a lot about ELOP. So the only thing of note is that this year's grant is 2.8 million. Last year's grant was 1.1. So that's an increase of 1.7 million for her program. Jennifer's, it's her baby now. Anyway, so expanding to all 7 sites was quite a project and a feat. Next slide. Oops, sorry, was that me? Sorry. Home to school transportation, it's got a lot of attention this year. We haven't seen a lot of support for home to school transportation funding wise in a really long time. And so what this does is it proposes adding a COLA to the add-on that we get through LCFF, which never happened since LCFF's inception in 13-14. The other thing is that they are going to reimburse us 60% of our transportation costs if you do a board approved plan by April 1st of all the requirements of how you're going to provide transportation, and you update it annually. And they'll pull those costs from just our SACS reporting that we do to the state. And so there'll be more details to come on how that affects us. Just of note, our add-on is only 269,000 and our transportation costs are about 927,000 for this last year. So any additional funds just helps offset what the general fund pays for transportation. So that's all I had for the presentation. Were there any questions from the data that you had to review in your binder?
Any questions? I like the reserve we're gonna have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we even had a reserve like that with Race to the Top. So. Mhm.
Maybe 8 or 9 at one time. I mean,
Mhm. Our board policy states that we need to stay at 9 once we got there, and we're obviously above 9. And so as we're looking at how we're going to use these funds, as Nicole mentioned, a lot of this is one time, and a lot of it we have until we have 5, 6, 7+ years to spend some of it. And so being really strategic on how to use these funds over the next few years. I believe even I think one of those block grants, we have to take a plan to the board, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll be bringing a plan to you. We'll be working with our unions, both our certificated and our classified unions too, to get feedback on how to use these funds as well. And we'll be starting negotiations on compensation for both union groups here in the near future, hoping to settle that prior to the start of January 1 is what we're hoping to be able to bring something to the board by November. I would like to do that so our employees know where we're at for this school year.
I just have one question then, because you mentioned that some of this is one-time funding. Yeah, even though we have some time before we have to use it up. Do you have a projection for the timeline when you would expect and that we would fall below 10% in reserve?
It honestly depends on a lot of factors, because when you give a salary settlement, it stays with you.
Right.
And so things like that are considerations. MYPs they can be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. The longer you get out, obviously, the less you're in more crystal ball
Mhm.
world. And so you can project farther out and do simple step and column and just simple things to see. But there are a lot of positions, there's a lot of salaries, a lot of expenses that come with this one-time money that also won't be there when it's gone. And then you kind of have to choose if there's anything you're going to keep with your own, general fund money that's really working that you want to pay for, and then other things, unfortunately, one-time dollars are one-time dollars. And so it's honestly going to depend mainly on compensation every year, because these dollars, they come and they go and they get spent in their own little silo. And so really your reserve, your unrestricted reserve that our district looks at is not affected by the one-time money in that respect. And so when those revenues go away, the expenses go away. It's really the decisions that have been made by having these one-time reserves. If you spend them on one-time things like facilities and textbooks adoption, it doesn't affect you after those things are gone. If you spend them on ongoing expenses, it has more effect on your ongoing reserve.
Okay.
Some of the things we've started to talk about on ways to spend some of these one-time funds is looking at curriculum adoptions. We're going to get feedback from our teachers union. We're considering for this year or to roll into next year, an adoption for either science or social studies. I think our social studies curriculum is the curriculum we used when I was in the classroom 20 some years ago. And science, we chose not to adopt the last couple of years because we just couldn't find a curriculum that was aligned to NGSS. And now they do have curriculum out there that is aligned. And then probably the following year, possibly a math adoption. We're waiting for the framework before we adopt a math adoption, but we have the board took action to kind of save some money for curriculum as well. So we think with the funds here, we should have enough for either a science or a social studies adoption and a math adoption in the next couple of years. And then we're also talking about some facility needs as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, then let's move on to item 2. The Williams Uniform Complaint Process, UCP, fourth quarter report.
There we go. No complaints.
No complaints.
No.
Okay, now we'll move on to item F, and that's board discussion of CSBA's 2022 Annual Educational Conference and Trade Show.
Mr. Silva, did we skip the consent calendar? Did we? That's next. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just following along. Yeah, no, it's next.
It's next. Okay.
It is next.
So we're
This is
on.
just a board discussion, so it's not an action item.
Got it. Okay. That's why I think I got confused.
Oh,
Thank you.
now, yes, now I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Okay, so informational item, we do have the annual conference coming up, the CSBA conference, and is in San Diego again this year, the end of November and the first couple of days in December. And so wanted to open it up for board discussion. If we had an interest from trustees to attend. We know we will have at least we know we will have 2 new trustees coming on board. There's a couple options we can reserve. We can go ahead and get them tickets for this. And there's some cancellation dates that we can meet as well if it ends up that the new trustees cannot attend. I wanted to see if there was an interest from the current to attend in December.
I won't be able to attend this year, but
Okay.
last year, Casey and I being, new trustees did attend.
Mhm.
Is there a cost? Like if we did want to reserve for the 2, new trustees, what's the cost if they can't make it? Because I thought it was really beneficial to go. If it's
Mhm.
nice to offer it to them.
I would like to attend and continue my learning path.
Mhm. There's a slight cancellation fee, I believe, is it 20%? It's a 25% cancellation fee after November 11th. So something we could do as well, I talked with Kwai about that. If we did buy tickets for 2 new trustees and maybe they couldn't end up going, we can change names in that too, to certain period that, maybe a couple cabinet members would like to go because there's other sessions too.
Absolutely.
So that could be a consideration. If I know that we have at least 1 trustee that wants to go, I'll attend as well. But I learned a lot last year. So. Mhm. Okay. Mhm. The pre-day, yes. And what is difficult are the hotels. You really need to make a decision and reserve those or you will not get a hotel. So we could do that. We could book for myself and for Casey. I don't know if Wes would.
You put me down and then one of the other 2 new ones want to go, then they can take my spot.
Okay. Okay. Okay, well then we'll work on that. We'll get some reservations going.
Yeah, 'cause I haven't been since my first year.
Mhm.
That really is a valuable experience if anyone has the opportunity and yeah, like you said, not just board members.
Mhm.
So I think it's a good idea to make those reservations. And, even if the new board members can't make it or opt not to, I think there's other opportunities for learning there. I know at least from my experience, it wasn't just board members that were in attendance at that conference. But the quality of the learning that goes on there is really valuable.
Mhm.
So I highly recommend it. So, but right, the big issue is, you have to decide at least early enough to get the reservations. Otherwise you end up at a hotel across town or something, and then it becomes a logistical challenge. So I agree that I think, you should probably figure out how many reservations you want to make. And then you can adjust those as needed.
Yeah, because I think we would always be able to find some people that would like to attend. And it looks like some great speakers. I would love to hear Tara Westover. That's an excellent book. The author of Educated will be one of the guest speakers.
Okay. So is that it for our discussion? Okay. Okay. Now we will go ahead and move on to item G, the consent calendar. So there are some items that you want to point out to us, Superintendent?
Yes, donations. For Valley Oaks, UC Davis donated $1,000 for school site use. And for Greer, Lowe's donated 50% of the cost of a new refrigerator for the staff lounge. And then our Walmart donated 500 notebooks with a value of $175 for site use.
And are there any hires or resignations, retirees that you would like to point out?
There are no retirees.
Okay.
We do have, we have some staff members that have moved on. They have resigned for different positions, and most of them have resigned for positions, kind of taking leadership roles, moving, had been going to school for a while, maybe got an admin credential or worked on a doctorate degree and moved on. So we recognize their service. We definitely have some teachers in the consent calendar that have been with us for many years. Kathleen Lucchese, Megan Haas, and Nicole Brewer. One moved on to be an administrator and one moved on to work for the California Department of Education. And then also Sophie Lohr. Sophie Lohr was a social worker with us for many years, and she also took a different position.
Well, we certainly wish them all the best of luck.
Mhm.
And we've certainly all benefited from them being here, so
Yes.
wish them the best. Are there any other questions or comments concerning the consent calendar? No? Okay, if not, then do I have a motion to approve item 212.333, board consideration of approval of consent calendar?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Wes. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. I have a motion from Wes Cagle to approve item number 212333, seconded by Casey Raboy. Tom Silva,
Aye.
Grace Mawson, Tracy Skinner.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, and now we'll move on to item 212.335. And that is board consideration of approval to change the September 21, 2022 regular board meeting location from the Galt City Hall chambers to the Galt Joint Union Elementary School District office. And I'm sure we have a reason for that, Superintendent. So go ahead and explain that.
We do the hall, the chamber is not available on this day, on our board meeting date. And so since we know about it ahead of time, we want to take action to move the meeting. If something comes up and we feel we need a larger venue than the district office, we can post ahead of time, 72 hours ahead of time to change the location. And last year we were moving around, but we were still in the pandemic and the emergency, and a lot of the protocols or the regulations were relaxed because of that. And so we didn't take formal action on where we were holding our meetings, but we want to get back into a routine of doing that if we know ahead of time, since we are in person. And so we do know we cannot be here in September.
Okay, so we're going to be someplace where our microphones work. Okay. Actually, these work very well. I'm just kidding. Okay, so if that's the case, then is there any questions or comments? If not, then I will move to approve agenda item 212.335. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. I have a motion from Tom Silva to approve item number 212335, seconded by Tracy Skinner. Grace Mawson. Aye. Wesley Cagle,
Aye.
Casey Raboy.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, now on to item 212.336, and that is board consideration of approval of provisional internship permits for newly hired educators.
Thank you. As you probably have heard, many districts are struggling to fill vacancies. We have been very lucky. We have hired 18 new teachers. Of the 18, 4 have not yet met the subject matter competence requirement needed to enter an intern program. We place these individuals on a special permit called Provisional Internship Permit, or PIP. So this public notice is in compliance with the PIP request issued by the California Commission on Teaching Credentialing. It is the district's intent to employ the following employees on the basis of a PIP. We have Abigail Abarca, special education teacher at River Oaks, Benjamin Solomon, 4th grade teacher at Valley Oaks, Jessica Utilli, 2nd grade teacher at Lake Canyon, and Veronica Baldovino, TK teacher at Fairsight, and we are asking for board approval. Yes.
The second name, I'm sorry, I missed it, is not on our paper. On your papers?
Are we missing one?
No, it's not on mine either. So
No,
there's
it's
only
not.
3 names on this
Thank you.
list. And can we,
Thank
how do we
you.
properly annotate that so that it's a matter of record?
Thank you. Okay, I need to make that correction. I'm going to assume that Mr. Solomon probably met the requirements needed, which is why he's not on the list. I apologize for that. I was looking probably at my old form here. So again, just to clarify, the 3 teachers that will need to be placed on a PIP permit will be Abigail Abarca, Jessica Utili, and Veronica Valdominos, a total of 3 teachers. And we're asking for board approval. Thank you for catching that, Grayson.
I was confused because he said 4 and I'm like, well, there's only 3. so.
Yeah, thank you for that.
All right. Any other questions or concerns regarding that? Okay, then if not, do I have a motion to approve item 212.336?
I'll make a motion to approve 212.336.
Thank you, Gracie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. I have a motion from Grace Mawson to approve item number 212-336, seconded by Casey Raboy. Tom Silva,
Aye.
Tracy Skinner,
Aye.
Wesley Cagle.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Now on to item 212.337, and that is board consideration of approval of substitute teacher rate increase. Deal.
Thank you. So last year, you probably heard that many of our administrators were subbing on a regular basis. I had the pleasure of subbing a couple of times. We have a group of extremely dedicated substitute teachers that will do just about anything that we ask, even if it's last minute. So in an effort to attract and retain highly qualified substitute teachers, we have researched the teacher substitute pay rates in the surrounding districts. Based on that research, the following daily rates have been adjusted. So the daily rate, we're recommending 180 from the current 150. Multiple day, meaning a substitute can work 15 or more days within a pay period. We're recommending 200 from the current 150. Long-term teacher or the teacher of record. These are the teachers that are usually in the classroom when the teacher goes out on leave for an extended period of time. We are recommending $240 daily, up from 160. And then our own retirees, we are recommending 200 daily, which is the current rate for our retirees. So we are asking for board approval.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, just curiosity, how many of our current retirees are coming back teaching? Do we know?
I would say about 10. And we have 5 that are sub almost on a daily basis if they can.
And then I know we went over budget earlier. Is there any major physical impact to this?
No, we have learning loss funds that we can use if we need to for extra, if we have another COVID, where we have a lot of subs. We did have a lot of one-time sub increases last year with COVID and things like that. And so we have funds to cover things like that.
Thank you.
And Cleo, I think I've asked you this question before too, but how much time do you spend every morning hunting down substitutes to fill those needs? I know this is a daily exercise for you.
It's daily. On a good day, it's 5 minutes. On a day when we have a lot of professional development, on a day in which we might have IEPs and professional development that we can't move around, I'd probably start working on subs at 6:45 in the morning. And I'm in constant communication with admin. They do a great job of saying, Cleo, pull this one, but not this one. Can we move this one around? So it probably takes us I would say probably an hour. By 7:30, we kind of have it figured out. But it does take, I would say 30 to 40 minutes each morning. And it does start at 6:45 with Irma Garcia. She is the queen of frontline and she's the one that will assist in us filling the vacancies. It takes a while. But we're hoping that with the pay increase, in particular, Tom, for the long-term subs, it's really, we ask a lot of our long-term substitute teachers. We ask them to become not just the teacher of record, but they're responsible for parent communication. They're responsible for IEPs. They're responsible for grades. So it's really important that the compensation fits the duties and the responsibilities that we give them. And again, with the good pool of substitute teachers that we have, I also think it has an impact on the scores that you continue to see where the learning loss is not possibly like other districts because we have a good pool of teachers. Some of the substitute teachers, some of our long-term substitute teachers from last year are now teaching. They were hired as teachers this year.
Wow. Very good. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, then do I have a motion to approve item 212.337?
I'll make the motion to approve 212 point.
Thank you, Tracy. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank you. I have a motion from Tracy Skinner to approve item number 212337, seconded by Wesley Cagle. Tom Silva,
Aye.
Grace Mawson,
Aye.
Casey Raboy.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. On to item 212.338, and that is board consideration of approval of resolution number 2, accepting final completion of contract for Greer Elementary Classroom Sink Project, Bobo Construction.
Thank you. Bobo Construction did a great job at Greer installing the sinks this summer. They stayed within budget and they finished on time. So that was awesome. We wanted that done before teachers came back, before students came back. The project was a total of $590,284. And that's included with change orders. So they really kept it within the budget. We are using ESSER 3 funds to pay for this. And this is the notice of completion required resolution to submit to the county. So that way we can submit final payment to them once this is approved by the county.
Okay, any questions?
Yeah.
No, we saw the
Yeah,
picture of the
this-
sink. It looked great. So
Yeah, they look really.
Thanks
really nice.
for including that in your slide.
Yeah.
So that was very helpful. All right, if there's
Reduce
no,
questions.
okay,
No, I said reduce the questions.
okay.
Mhm.
It really did help. So if there are no questions, I will go ahead and move to approve agenda item 212.338. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. I have a motion from Tom Silva to approve item number 212338, seconded by Casey Raboy. Grace Mawson,
Aye.
Tracy Skinner,
Aye.
Wesley Cagle.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now on to item 212.339. And that is board consideration of approval of memorandum of understanding between the California School Employees Association and its Galt chapter number 362 of the CSEA and the Galt Joint Union Elementary School District regarding salary range increase for food and nutrition lead, the reclassification to food and nutrition assistant 2, and the food and nutrition department job title and description changes. Nicole,
The long title.
it's okay.
So this MOU, the Food and Nutrition Department, between us and the CSEA, we reviewed all the job descriptions and they were revised to align better with their actual duties. This resulted in the reclassing of the current 7 or more hour food service workers into assistant 2s. So the whole department kind of went from food service to food and nutrition as title wise. And so we still have cashiers, Now we have assistant 1 and 2s instead of just food service worker. So a 1 are positions under 7 hours and a 2 are positions under over 7 hours or 7 hours or more. And then cafeteria manager was an old term they had gotten away from. We're just updating the job title to the lead, which is what they call them already. And so the reclass that happened in this analysis was the food and nutrition assistant 2 is kind of a layer that was developed from all of this. And so we're recommending that that assistant 2 be placed on range N and that the leads be placed on range R. There's a approximate fiscal impact of 18,000 and the funding sources are the federal and state child nutrition funding that we get for that. And so you had the MOU and the job descriptions and the proposed salary schedule. This has been ratified by CSEA, and so we're recommending approval from the board.
Any questions? I think I got to say, I really like the semantics behind that. I think food and nutrition is more holistic. I kind of like the concept of that. So I think that's kind of consistent with how we view, how we view food services nowadays. So yeah, I don't know. I think it just sounds better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, our supervisor, Nick, kind of coined that for this food and nutrition. He liked that being kind of what they were calling themselves. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so just extended.
We concur, Nick. All right. Any other questions or comments?
No, I do like food. I mean, in high school, I took foods and nutrition class 1 and 2. They didn't call it food service, you know what I mean? Or, so kind of just goes along with, again, the, what, career, cradle to career ready and aligns with what, they can take in high school and. Proud of it. I was a crusader for nutrition on campus when I was in high school in my booze class. So that's kind of near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
I like it.
Anybody else? All right, then do I have a motion to approve item 212.339?
I'll make a,
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve item 212.339.
Thank you, Gracie. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Wes.
Thank you. I have a motion from Grace Mawson to approve item number 212-339, seconded by Wesley Cagle. Tom Silva,
Aye.
Tracy Skinner,
Aye.
Casey Raboy.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Next up is item 212.340, and that is board consideration of approval of memorandum of understanding between the California School Employees Association and its Galt Chapter 362 CSEA and the Galt Joint Union Elementary School District regarding salary range increase for Health Assistant 2, Secretary 1, and Secretary 2, and the creation of the licensed vocational nurse position. Nicole?
So this agenda item, again, after review of job descriptions to better align, to revise and better align with their actual duties, CSEA and the district also performed parity studies on the salaries of each of these positions. So in regards to the current positions, Health Assistant, Secretary 1 and 2, we are proposing salary increases for all 3 to move to different ranges than they're on now. So Health Assistant 2, we're recommending on range R, Secretary 1 on range R, Secretary 2 on range V. In regards to the second piece of this, the district has medically fragile students that require one-on-one specialized care. Contracting LVNs can be expensive, and so it's more cost-effective to hire your own LVN. Although they're hard to find, it would be beneficial for us to at least try and recruit and have our own. And so we're proposing to put them on range CC of the CSEA, sorry, cut a whole word off. And so the approximate cost is $99,957. Half is about for the first part of this and half is about for the second part of this. And so the source of that would be LCFF funding. And you've had the MOU, job description and salary schedule attached. CSEA has also ratified this MOU and board approval is recommended.
Any questions regarding this one? Okay, if not, do I have a motion to approve item 212.340?
Make a motion to approve 212.340.
Thank you, Gracie. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. I have a motion from Grace Mawson to approve item number 212-340, seconded by Casey Raboy. Tom Silva,
Aye.
Tracy Skinner,
Aye.
Wesley Cagle.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Now on to item 212.341, and that is board consideration of approval of memorandum of understanding between the California School Employees Association and its Galt chapter number 362 CSEA and the Galt Joint Union Elementary School District regarding salary range increases for the accounts payable clerk and bus drivers who drive special education routes. Nicole.
So this MOU, the first part of it for the accounts payable job classification, the increase in the range that we're proposing just better aligns with the salaries in the fiscal services department. So we're recommending the accounts payable clerk to range Y. The second part of this was due to driver shortages and to ensure special ed routes are covered. We wanted to increase by one range drivers who through the normal bidding process in any given school year drove a special ed route to be placed on range V. The fiscal impact is around 13,000 and the funding sources for these are LCFF and also our state special ed AB 602 dollars for the bus drivers. Attached was the MOU and the salary schedule. This MOU has also been ratified by CSEA and board approval is recommended.
Any questions? Okay, if not, I'll move to approve item 212.341. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. I have a motion from Tom Silva to approve item number 212-341, seconded by Tracy Skinner. Grace Mawson,
Aye.
Wesley Cagle,
Aye.
Casey Raboy.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, the next action item is item 212.342. That is board consideration of approval of the GJUESD Sunshine Proposal for the fiscal year 2022-23 with California School Employees Association, CSEA, one Article X, Article 10 transfers, and Article 24 food services vacancy procedures.
All right. Thank you. A lot of work the last couple of months with our classified staff. Want to thank everybody on the bargaining team and the union president and our cabinet for all the work to get to the point to where we could take this to the board, the last 3 action items. And we're continuing that work. And so per contract, the district can request each school year, each fiscal year to negotiate 2 articles. And so we would like board approval to negotiate transfers, Article 10, and Article 24, food services vacancy procedures. Those are the 2 articles that management would like to sunshine to negotiate with CSEA this year.
Any comment?
Does the union get to do the same thing, right?
Yes, they also get to sunshine 2 articles. And so typically they'll bring that to us in September. So we'll bring that to the board when we have that from CSEA.
Okay. Then do I have a motion to approve item 212.342?
I'll make a motion to approve 212.2342.
Thank you, Grace. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. I have a motion from Grace Mawson to approve item number 212342, seconded by Casey Raboy. Tom Silva,
Aye.
Tracy Skinner, Wesley Cagle.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The next action item is agenda item number 212.343. That is board consideration of approval of the following board policy and administrative regulation. Item number 1 is adopt board policy 1312.1, and that is concerning complaints concerning district employees. And then item 2 is to delete regulation 1312.1, and that's concerning complaints concerning district employees. So Superintendent, go ahead and
Thank you.
cover that.
Thank you. This, the current board policy has not been updated since 2003. That's the current policy that is adopted. And we've been working with legal counsel to update this board policy. And you can see the current policy is provided for you. It's very brief and it leaves out important information that should be included in the board policy that's been both recommended by CSBA and then in legal counsel as well. So the new board policy outlines the process, who complaints go to, and the appeal process to the board as well, which our current policy lacks. It does not have that. And so we're recommending adoption of the board policy. And second, we are recommending a deletion of the administrative regulation. And we are not required to have an AR or admin regulation. And the current that we have somewhat contradicts the new board policy, and it also creates some restrictive timelines that are difficult to implement, and the timelines in the current AR are not required by law. And so we would like to move forward with board approval to adopt the new board policy regarding complaints concerning district employees, and then with that, delete the regulation as well.
Any questions? Okay. Then do I have a motion to approve item 212.343?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna make the motion to approve.
All right, thank you, Wes. I will second.
Thank you. I have a motion from Wes Cagle to approve item number 212343, seconded by Tom Silva. Grace Mawson,
Aye.
Tracy Skinner,
Aye.
Casey Raboy.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, next item is 212.344, and that is board consideration to nominate California School Boards Association, CSBA, directors at large, Asian Pacific Islander and Hispanic.
Yes, so this is an annual item.
Mhm.
If the board knows anybody that they would like to nominate to be this director at large. Background information is there for you. We have until, let's see, let me check the date here. Currently accepted through September 30th. If the board knows a board member that would fit to be a director at large for the Asia Pacific Islander and Hispanic community.
So just to be clear, does our nomination, can it only come from amongst ourselves, or if we know somebody who's a CSBA member of another board, can we recommend them?
Yes, you can. It can be,
Okay,
it doesn't
okay.
have to be from our board.
Okay, okay, so I think that helps clarify that maybe a little bit. Okay. Any discussion on that then? Know anybody? Okay, fair enough. And that's. So if we don't nominate anybody, would we actually take action on this? No?
No.
Okay, so we just. Okay,
Would it come back next board meeting, since we meet now the third Wednesday and it's nomination periods
Yeah.
through the 30th of September?
Yeah.
someone. to
Tom, you,
nominate then.
do you know anyone? You'll recruit the next month.
Well, I guess part of the
Right.
challenge there
just never
is
knew
not
who
knowing
did
this. Yeah, I think part of the challenge is even if you know somebody that's on a school board in another district, not knowing whether or not they're actually members of CSBA.
Right.
Because it's not like we have access to that data,
And would be interested in
right? You know, or hasn't already been nominated, so.
Well, I
um,
think in the
yeah.
past, it was always just too late because of our board meetings. So we didn't, it would have been past the cutoff.
Okay,
And so I'm looking at the date now. I'm like, oh, well, we still have one more meeting. So we can not vote and table it or
okay,
I don't know anybody. I was just
right.
looking at the dates, that's all.
Okay, so
Let
we'll
us-
keep it on, we'll add it as an agenda item for next meeting to see if
See if we find anybody.
anybody comes up.
Recommend, okay. So we'll table this item and move on to the next item, which is an information item. And that would be item 212.345, and that is board review of proposed resolution number 1, authorization to adopt California Uniform Public Construction Cost Accounting Act procedures and related items. For this, is that CUPCA?
It's Kafka.
Okay. Yeah, and first reading of related board policy and administrative regulation 3311.1.
Yes, so this is an informational item at this time. We would like to bring it back to the board next month for approval. We would like to be a CUPCA district, and what that means is it expands our bid threshold for facility projects. Right now, the state bid threshold is $99,100. And so what that means is if we have a project that is over that bid limit, then we have to advertise and we have to go through the formal bidding process, which can be very cumbersome, time consuming. There's some costs associated with that too. You have to advertise for a certain amount of time. And going through that process, in many cases, you do not get to pick the contractor that you would like, because a lot of times you have to pick the lowest bid. And so if you are a certified CUPCA district, you adopt a resolution, you file with the right agencies in California, and you would also have to adopt the board policy that's attached or with the packet. We currently do not have a board policy for this, so this would all be new. If this gets approved, then we are established as a CUPCA district and our bid limit goes up to $200,000. So I can give you an example of a couple projects. I've really wanted to take this to the board the last year and just haven't been able to do it. But for example, we recently had a proposal to paint McCaffrey Middle School, and the proposal came back, the estimate came back at about $135,000. It's over that 99,000, so you have to go out to bid. And just for a painting project, it's you know, most districts end up going the CUPCA route because of things like that. Another example is at McCaffrey as well. At some point, we want to put some electrical, we want to put some lighting and add some electrical panels out at the track. We had an estimate for some of that work and it came out at about $150,000. We know the contractor we want to use. We've used them before for other larger projects that have gone out to bid. And so if we were established as a CUPCA district, we would just be able to choose who we want and do this work that's really in between that $100,000 and $200,000. So just information at this time. We'll bring it back for approval. We do have legal counsel that helps us with this process to make sure we're filing through the right state organizations to be certified to be CUPCA. Any of the contractors that we end up choosing still have to be bonded and insured and go through a vetting process of being pre-qualified with us. We can't just choose our neighbor or, our friend to do this kind of work. So we still would go through all of that. It's just the advertising and the bidding would be taken out. And this would be really helpful too, as we start to look at some of these one-time funds for these facility projects that we want to do around that dollar mark, that we would just be able to get estimates, get a couple estimates, choose a contractor that we want and get it done. So no action at this time, but we will bring it back to you in September.
I'm just curious, do you know how long the threshold has been at 200,000? And with, inflationary costs, is there any possibility of it, being up to like 250 or something?
It changes every January.
Oh, so every January
It
it's
does.
adjusted.
It only goes up by a couple $1,000s. It's been
Okay.
right around since I've been working in facilities and things like that the last few years. When I first started as Director of Business Services, I think it was 195. And it's gone up to the 199, 100. So it's not going to jump up to that 200.
It's not going to jump anytime fast. Okay, but it does constantly get adjusted every
does.
January. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you have to recertify every year then, or?
I believe we have to recertify every year.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, that is a information item only. Okay, then we'll move on to item H, and that is request for public comments for topics not on the agenda. Do we have any requests?
There are no requests for public comment at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Bach. Pending agenda items, school district properties, always a great conversation. Is there anything anybody else would like to see on there? Not at the moment? Okay. And then in that case, our next regular meeting is scheduled for September 21. Okay. And it won't be here.
No, district office.
Okay. All right, just making sure everybody's paying attention. Okay, well, if that's the case, then this meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you. Have a good night.